What if a single act of kindness could change a life? At Buckingham Palace, where tradition reigns supreme, one royal guard dared to break protocol for a little girl battling cancer. In a moment that left onlookers in tears, Guard James Harrison knelt down to Emily's level, pinned his own medal on her dress, and taught her the official salute. This wasn't just a photo op, it was a powerful reminder of the impact we can have when we choose compassion over convention. Emily's world was a stark contrast to the vibrant, bustling life of a typical 7-year-old. Instead of playgrounds and classrooms, her days were filled with the sterile environment of hospital rooms and the constant hum of medical equipment. The diagnosis of stage 4 cancer had thrust her into a battle no child should face. Yet Emily faced each day with resilience. During her long stays in the hospital, Emily found solace in documentaries about the British royal family. The majestic palaces, grand ceremonies, and especially the stoic royal guards captured her imagination. She would watch with wide-eyed fascination as the guards stood tall and unmoving, their red uniforms and tall bearskin hats a symbol of unwavering dedication. As Emily's fascination grew, so did the gravity of her situation. The doctors called her parents into a quiet room, their faces etched with concern. The news was grim. Emily's cancer was aggressive, and traditional treatments weren't yielding the results they had hoped for. Amid the sterile routines, a small, heartfelt whisper emerged from Emily, changing everything. That evening, as Emily's mother tucked her into bed, the little girl voiced a wish. "Mommy, I want to see a real royal guard. Can we go to Buckingham Palace?" The simplicity of the request stood in stark contrast to the complexity of Emily's medical situation. Torn between practical impossibilities and the desire to fulfill their daughter's wish, Emily's parents began to research. They discovered studies highlighting the psychological benefits of granting wishes to seriously ill children. One study revealed that children who had wishes fulfilled showed increased emotional strength and willingness to comply with difficult treatments. Dr. Anita Raj, a pediatric psychologist, had conducted a study on the impact of wish fulfillment on critically ill children. Her findings were striking. We observed a 20% increase in hope and a 25% decrease in anxiety levels among children whose wishes were granted. This emotional boost translated to improved physical resilience during treatments. For Emily's parents, these statistics illuminated a path forward, offering a glimmer of hope in their daughter's challenging journey. Emily's determination shone through her weakened state. Despite the toll of her treatments, she would often sit up in bed, mimicking the straight-backed posture of the guards she admired. Her parents watched in awe as their little girl found strength in this simple act of imagination. After much deliberation and consultation with Emily's medical team, her parents decided to make the trip to Buckingham Palace. The preparations began in earnest. Emily's doctors worked on a treatment plan that would allow her to travel safely. Her parents coordinated with airlines to ensure they could accommodate Emily's medical needs. Friends and family rallied around them, offering support and helping to raise funds for the journey. As the departure date drew near, Emily's excitement grew. She pored over picture books of London, pointing out the places she wanted to see. Her focus, however, always returned to Buckingham Palace and its steadfast guards. "Do you think they'll notice me?" she asked her father one evening. He smiled, fighting back tears, and assured her that she was impossible not to notice. The morning of their departure arrived with a mix of nervous energy and hopeful anticipation. Emily, despite her frail condition, insisted on walking through the airport herself, pulling a small suitcase adorned with a Union Jack flag. Fellow travelers couldn't help but notice the determined little girl, her bald head held high, a stark reminder of her ongoing battle. As Emily and her parents approached the gates of Buckingham Palace, the morning sun cast a gentle warmth across the grounds. The palace loomed before them like an ancient promise of hope, its grand facade a stark contrast to the sea of tourists. The crowd began to notice the little girl with the colorful beanie, her frail appearance at odds with the vibrant energy around her. People parted, creating a small pocket of space, that seemed to acknowledge Emily's special visit. Hushed conversations rippled through the gathering, a mix of curiosity and sympathy coloring the air. Parents drew their children closer, explaining in soft tones about kindness and respect. Emily's mother squeezed her hand tighter, protective instinct kicking in as she noticed the stares. Her father stood tall beside them, eyes darting from face to face. They had prepared for this moment, but the reality of it, the weight of all those eyes on their little girl, was more intense than imagined. But Emily was in her element. Her eyes sparkled with excitement as she took in the palace. The structure that had existed only in her dreams was now right before her, larger than life and full of promise. As they made their way through, Emily's voice rose above the murmur. "Did you know," she said, her voice carrying with childlike excitement, "that the guards have to stand still for hours? And their hats are called bearskins." A ripple of gentle laughter spread through the nearest onlookers. The mood shifted, sympathy giving way to admiration for this small figure whose enthusiasm seemed to outshine her physical fragility. As they approached the guards, the crowd's energy changed again. People stepped back, creating a respectful distance. It was as if an unspoken agreement had passed through the gathering. This moment belonged to Emily. The family moved closer to guard James Harrison's post. Emily's steps slowed, her eyes wide with wonder as she took in the sight of the real guard, standing tall and still in his crisp red uniform and towering hat. The chatter of the crowd faded to a hush, all eyes now on the little girl and the impassive guard. Emily's parents exchanged a glance, a mix of emotions passing between them. This was the moment they had worked so hard to create, the fulfillment of a wish that had sustained their daughter through long nights in hospital rooms and grueling treatments. Yet as they stood on the cusp of this dream becoming reality, a flicker of uncertainty passed through them. But Emily showed no hesitation. She took a deep breath, squaring her small shoulders as if preparing for the most important moment of her young life. The colorful beanie on her head bobbed with determination as she took another step forward. The crowd held its collective breath. In that moment, the bustling courtyard fell into an expectant silence. It was as if the very air recognized the significance of what was about to unfold. Guard Harrison stood motionless, yet even from behind his impassive expression, one could sense a growing awareness. Something out of the ordinary was happening, a deviation from the usual tourist interactions. As Emily drew nearer, her gaze locked onto Guard Harrison. The rest of the world seemed to fade away. The tension in the air was palpable. Would protocol bend in the face of Emily's unwavering spirit? Or would the rigid rules of royal decorum prevail, leaving a little girl's dream unfulfilled? The air crackled with tension as Emily approached Guard Harrison's post. Behind his stoic facade, a battle raged within the seasoned royal sentry. 15 years of unwavering service had honed Harrison into the perfect guard, his training emphasizing the importance of standing motionless while remaining vigilant. Yet as Emily drew closer, something stirred within him, a memory, perhaps, or an emotion long buried. Harrison's heightened awareness, sharpened by years of military service, allowed him to notice subtle shifts in the crowd's energy and conversations. He could sense the collective breath being held as Emily made her way towards him. Her determined gaze met his, and for a moment, Harrison felt the carefully constructed walls of his professional demeanor begin to crack, like a stone slowly eroded by gentle waves. As Emily's small figure came into focus, Harrison's mind flashed back to his tours in Afghanistan. The dusty streets of Kabul materialized in his mind's eye, overlaying the polished grounds of Buckingham Palace. He remembered the faces of the local children, their eyes wide with a mixture of fear and curiosity. One particular memory surfaced, a young girl, not much older than Emily, who had approached their convoy with a handful of wilted flowers. In that moment, surrounded by the chaos of war, Harrison had accepted the flowers with a smile, a brief connection in a world torn apart by conflict. Emily's approach stirred these memories, blurring the lines between past and present. The little girl before him now, with her colorful beanie and unwavering determination, reminded Harrison of the wounded comrades he had served alongside. He saw in her eyes the same courage that had kept his fellow soldiers going through the darkest of times. As Emily drew nearer, Harrison's internal struggle intensified. The strict protocols that dictated his behavior as a royal guard seemed to tighten around him. He was expected to maintain a stoic demeanor, to not engage with the public, to be an unwavering symbol of tradition and discipline. But the man behind the uniform felt a powerful pull towards compassion. The crowd held its breath as Emily stopped before Harrison. The tension in the air was palpable, a mixture of anticipation and uncertainty. Would protocol bend in the face of Emily's unwavering spirit? Or would the rigid rules of royal decorum prevail, leaving a little girl's dream unfulfilled? In that suspended moment, Harrison weighed his options. His military background had taught him the importance of split-second decision-making, of trusting his instincts when faced with unexpected challenges. He thought of the countless times he had stood guard, unwavering in the face of curiosity, provocation, and even pleading. He thought of the oath he had taken, the tradition he represented, but he also thought of the moments that had shaped him as a person, not just as a guard. The acts of humanity he had witnessed in war-torn lands, the small gestures that had meant everything in times of crisis. He thought of the little girl with the wilted flowers in Afghanistan and how a simple smile had lit up her world. As Emily looked up at him, her eyes filled with hope and admiration, Harrison made his decision. In that moment, he chose to be more than a uniform, more than a symbol. He chose to be human. The crowd gasped as Harrison's hand began to move. The sound rippled through the courtyard, a collective intake of breath that seemed to freeze time itself. In breaking protocol, Harrison was doing more than acknowledging a little girl. He was breaking years of ingrained behavior, challenging the very foundations of his training and the institution he represented. As Harrison's hand moved, the world seemed to hold its breath. The crowd's collective gasp rippled through the courtyard, a sound of anticipation and wonder. Two figures stood out. Harrison, tall and striking in his vivid red uniform, and Emily, small but determined in her delicate dress. The contrast between them was stark, yet they shared a connection that transcended appearances. Harrison's eyes locked with Emily's as he lowered himself to one knee. The crisp red of his uniform met the pale stone of the courtyard, creating a visual spectacle. Emily's face lit up with surprise and wonder. This moment defied her expectations, forged during long nights in the hospital. "Hello there, young lady," Harrison said softly. "I hear you've been fighting quite a battle of your own." Emily nodded, momentarily speechless. "You know," Harrison continued, "we soldiers wear medals that show our service and bravery. They're given to us for showing exceptional courage in difficult situations." He unpinned a medal from his chest. "This medal is for bravery in the face of challenging conditions." He held it out to Emily. "May I?" Emily nodded, transfixed. With careful precision, Harrison pinned the medal to her dress, just above her heart. "There," he said, "now you have a medal of your own, to remind you of your bravery every day." Emily's fingers traced the medal's edges, her eyes wide with amazement. Her journey from a hospital bed to Buckingham Palace had been long and arduous, but now she felt a sense of belonging. "Now, would you like to learn how we soldiers show our respect?" Harrison asked. Emily nodded eagerly, her earlier shyness melting away. Harrison stood, demonstrating the official Royal Guard salute with crisp movements. "Your turn," he said, lowering his hand. Emily took a deep breath. Her small frame straightened as she mirrored Harrison's salute with surprising accuracy. "Well done!" Harrison exclaimed, his smile matching Emily's beaming face. "That's a perfect salute if I've ever seen one." The courtyard erupted in applause. Tourists who had come to see the stoic guards found themselves witness to a moment of profound humanity. Parents hugged their children closer, wiping away tears. Strangers exchanged glances of shared joy and admiration. For Emily, this moment was more than just meeting a royal guard. It validated her battles in hospital rooms and treatment centers. The medal on her chest and the salute she had learned were symbols of her inclusion in a legacy of bravery. Harrison felt the weight of the moment too. In his years of service, he had faced numerous challenges and made countless split-second decisions. But this simple act of kindness, this break from protocol, felt like one of the most important actions of his career. As Emily lowered her hand, pride shining in her eyes, Harrison straightened up, resuming his post. But the courtyard was forever changed. Those who had come to see an unchanging symbol of tradition had witnessed a powerful reminder of the human heart that beats beneath every uniform. The vivid red of Harrison's uniform and the delicate fabric of Emily's dress stood as a visual reminder of their unlikely connection. In that moment, two warriors had indeed stood face to face, one in uniform, one in a colorful beanie, and both had shown true courage. The courtyard fell silent, but the ripples of what had just occurred were only beginning to spread. As Guard Harrison resumed his post, the crowd's attention shifted. Whispers began to circulate, carrying Emily's story on a wave of emotion. Parents instinctively pulled their children closer, their eyes misting over as they imagined themselves in Emily's place. The atmosphere at Buckingham Palace had transformed. What began as a typical day of tourist excitement had evolved into a shared moment of compassion and respect. The usual chatter and laughter were replaced by hushed conversations about kindness, bravery, and the power of human connection. A mother from Australia lifted her son onto her shoulders, pointing towards Emily and Harrison. "Did you see that, love?" she whispered, her voice thick with emotion. "That's what true strength looks like." Her words carried to those nearby, prompting nods of agreement and dabbed eyes. The crowd's reaction was palpable. Many tourists were visibly moved to tears as they witnessed the interaction between Emily and Guard Harrison. The spontaneous applause that erupted after Emily's perfect salute was a collective release of emotion, a shared acknowledgement of the extraordinary scene they had just witnessed. And just when you thought the spell was broken, the story raced through every corner of the palace. Tourists who had captured the moment on their phones were already sharing it on social media, their captions filled with heart emojis and words of admiration. "Just saw a royal guard break protocol for a little girl with cancer. Faith in humanity restored." Read one post that was quickly gaining traction. The diversity of the crowd amplified the impact of the moment. Visitors from all corners of the globe, speaking different languages and carrying different cultural expectations, found themselves united in their emotional response. A group of Japanese tourists were openly wiping tears from their eyes, while an American family felt they had witnessed something far more valuable than a photo opportunity. As the news of the event began to reach palace officials, there was a palpable sense of anticipation in the air. How would the strict guardians of royal protocol respond to this breach of tradition? The crowd held its collective breath, wondering if there would be repercussions for Harrison's act of kindness. To everyone's relief and delight, the palace's response was supportive. In an unprecedented move, they issued a statement backing Harrison's actions, recognizing the importance of compassion in the face of strict tradition. This official acknowledgement resonated deeply with the public's emotional response, further amplifying the impact of the moment. The ripple effect of Emily's encounter with the guard continued to spread. Tourists who had witnessed the event firsthand shared the story with those who had just arrived, creating a continuous cycle of retelling. Each version added a new layer of emotion, with some emphasizing Emily's bravery, others praising Harrison's compassion, and still others marveling at the palace's supportive response. As the day wore on, the atmosphere at Buckingham Palace remained charged with a unique energy. Visitors who came expecting to see an unchanging symbol of tradition had instead witnessed a powerful reminder of the human heart that beats beneath every uniform. The impact of Harrison's gesture extended beyond the immediate vicinity of Buckingham Palace. As news outlets picked up the story, it sparked discussions about the role of tradition in modern society, the importance of empathy in public service, and the power of small acts of kindness to create meaningful change. As Emily returned to the hospital for her cancer treatments, a newfound energy radiated from her small frame. The weight of her illness seemed lighter, buoyed by the memory of her encounter with Guard Harrison at Buckingham Palace. The medal he had given her, once a symbol of military valor, now represented a different kind of bravery. The courage to face each day with hope and determination. The shiny disc rested on Emily's bedside table, catching the sterile hospital light and transforming it into a warm glow. It became a tangible reminder of her transformative day, a beacon of hope in the stark hospital room. Emily would often reach for it, closing her eyes and picturing herself standing tall, saluting just as Harrison had taught her. The hospital staff noticed the change in Emily's demeanor. Where once there had been resignation in her eyes, now there was a spark of determination. Nurses found themselves greeted by a girl eager to share stories of her adventure at the palace. Dr. Samantha Lee, Emily's oncologist, observed the shift with cautious optimism. Emily's spirit, it's different now, more resilient, she confided to Emily's parents one afternoon. As word of Emily's encounter spread through the pediatric ward, other young patients found themselves drawn to her story. Children who had been retreating into themselves now ventured out of their rooms, eager to hear Emily recount her experience. Parents watched in amazement as their own children, inspired by Emily's bravery, faced their treatments with renewed courage. 10-year-old Max, battling leukemia in the room next door, became Emily's most frequent visitor. "Tell me about the guard's hat again," he'd ask, his eyes wide with wonder. Emily would describe the towering bearskin, her hands stretching high above her head to demonstrate its height. Emily's parents, Sarah and David, felt a change in themselves as well. The constant worry that had been etched into their faces began to soften, replaced by a cautious hope they hadn't dared to feel in months. They watched as their daughter, once withdrawn and quiet, now chatted animatedly with her doctors and fellow patients. As Emily's next scan approached, a palpable sense of anticipation filled the air. The medical team, while careful not to raise false hopes, couldn't help but be affected by Emily's unwavering positivity. Even the most seasoned nurses found themselves crossing their fingers as Emily was wheeled into the imaging room. Dr. Lee studied the results with a furrowed brow, her eyes moving quickly across the screen. She called in a colleague, then another. The tension in the room grew as Emily's parents waited, hands clasped tightly together. Finally, Dr. Lee turned to them, a smile breaking across her face. "I don't want to overstate anything," she began cautiously, "but we're seeing some unexpected improvement. The tumor, it's showing signs of shrinkage." Sarah and David exchanged a look of disbelief and joy. In that moment, they saw the medal's gleam reflected in their daughter's unwavering spirit. Emily's bravery, they realized, had become a force as tangible as the treatment itself. The news spread through the ward, bringing with it a wave of collective relief. Nurses who had been caring for Emily for months wiped tears from their eyes. Her fellow patients cheered from their beds, Max's voice the loudest among them. Emily, still groggy from the sedation, looked at her parents quizzically. "Did I do good?" she asked sleepily. Sarah brushed a strand of hair from her daughter's forehead. "You did more than good, sweetheart. You were brave, just like your guard friend." As Emily drifted back to sleep, the medal still clutched in her hand, her parents marveled at the journey that had brought them to this moment. What had begun as a simple wish to meet a royal guard had blossomed into something far greater, a testament to the power of kindness and the strength of the human spirit. Emily's encounter with Guard Harrison at Buckingham Palace sparked a global wave of compassion. Hospitals, schools, and communities worldwide felt the impact as people embraced empathy. Donations to organizations like St. Jude increased, while neighbors helped one another in small but meaningful ways. As the sun set on that transformative day, Emily stood tall in her hospital room, saluting her reflection. Her eyes shone with determination, ready to face challenges ahead. She embodied a new battle cry for hope, a testament to the strength that comes from knowing you're not alone. Her salute became a symbol of resilience, inspiring others to stand tall in their own battles.